Yo, what is up, guys? It is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, back again today with another fantasy football video. Today's video is Week 7 quarterback start or sit decisions. Are you going to be starting the quarterback in every single matchup, or are you going to be sitting that quarterback? That's fine too, because some quarterbacks deserve to ride that pine like their name is Marcus Mariota. Now, before I get into the video, I'd like to give you guys a word from my sponsor, OverlayDFS.com. Are you tired of having to pick the perfect player at every single position in order to win salary cap DFS? Are you tired of having your salary cap lineup out of the running to win the money in the first 5 minutes of the games? Does playing salary DFS feel like a job and not even a game? Well, I have the solution for you guys right here. OverlayDFS.com has a new revolutionary start-sit game for fantasy sports. They're home of the single entry GPP, and it's so simple, guys. I'm playing this every single week. All you got to do is you look at the matchups on your screen here. There's a bunch of them, and you just pick which players. You're going to have to pick 12 players as well as 3 alternates. Who do you think is going to do better than another person? So, do you think Daniel Jones is going to be better than Teddy Bridgewater? It is that simple, guys. That is literally all you have to do, and there's pretty much entries at every single level. This is the $2.50 one. There's $22 ones. There's even $100 ones if you are rolling in the big bucks like that. See, if you go 12 and 0 in this, 12 and 0 record gets you $2,972. So you're making way more money than the $2.50 you put in. And if you finish in the top 10% of people, you get $18, and it goes up obviously depending on which type of game you're playing in based upon how much you put into the game. So it's very simple. I play on it pretty much every single week. So say in week 4, if you were playing in the 12, if you went 12 and 0 in the $109 game, you'll win a progressive bonus of over $26,000. The object is pretty much just to stay consistent, and you get, if you finish in the top 10% of the field, you win 9 times your buy-in until you get that beautiful 12 and 0 and win that huge progressive bonus. So make sure that you guys check this out. It's super easy. I planned it every single week. I've been doing pretty good, but I think you guys may honestly be smarter than me and may be able to do better. So come play with me. Come check it out. OverlayDFS.com. Check it out. Link below down in the description. And we are back. Week 7 quarterback start or sits. Make sure to check out OverlayDFS.com. Link down below in the description. Let's get into it. First game on the Sunday slate, we got the Raiders at the Green Bay Packers. I'm going to be starting up Aaron Rodgers up in this game. Discount double check all over the Raiders' face this game. I think that the Raiders are going to get their ass smacked by the Packers as well as the refs. Now, the refs may be, they're on the Packers side. Let's be honest with you. I'm just fucking with you guys. Obviously, against the Lions, they're clearly on the Packers side. Who knows if they go for some makeup calls against the Packers in this game. But what I do know is that Aaron Rodgers should have a feast in this game. Aaron Rodgers has been quite disappointing this year for fantasy football. You drafted him pretty highly, and he has not been performing up to expectations. But what I think this week against the Raiders is a soft defensive matchup. I think Aaron Rodgers will be in for a pretty phenomenal game. I'm going to be sitting down Derek Carr, Mr. DC, in this game, and we ain't talking Diet Coke. We're talking Derek Carr. He is not looking too hot. Obviously, he played pretty good against the Bears 2 weeks ago in London last week. Played good in the bye week game against whoever they were playing up against. Obviously, there's no real fucking game, but Derek Carr is not a guy I love to start in fantasy. Obviously, he started off pretty strong in the year, but he hasn't been playing all that great since, so just don't be starting Derek Carr. Next game here is the Rams at the Atlanta Falcons. This is a huge game for a bounce back for Mr. Jared Goff. A lot of people are saying, Nick, should I drop Jared Goff? Nick, should I cut Jared Goff? Nick, should I throw Jared Goff out the fucking window because he scored me 0 points last week? And you shouldn't do any of those. You should play him against the Falcons. The Falcons defense can't stop anyone. The Falcons defense will not be able to stop Jared Goff. Sean McVay's brain is going to be flying straight into Jared Goff's fucking head, and he's going to be able to have a phenomenal game this week against the Falcons, a top 10 game. Matt Ryan, Matty Ice is a good-to-go guy in this matchup. Obviously, Jalen Ramsey, who knows if he's playing in this game? Some people tell me he's going to play. Some are telling me he's not going to play. I'm not entirely sure. But what I do know is Matt Ryan, whether Julio Jones is going to be included in this game or if he's going to be retired because Jalen Ramsey is covering him, I think Matt Ryan is still in for a pretty good matchup this week against the Rams. We saw Jimmy G play pretty good against the Rams last week. Next game here is Jimmy G's Rams against the Redskins. How How beautiful was that transition? I'm going to be starting Jimmy G, Jimmy G spot, Jimmy Guap in this game. Jimmy G played pretty good last week, like I said, against the Redskins, against a team that cannot stop anyone. Fucking Ryan Fitzpatrick almost came back and made a beautiful comeback last week. I'm glad the Dolphins lost, though. We need that number one pick. Hashtag tank for Tua. Knock one time if you're with me, Dolphins fans. Jimmy G, though, should be in for a pretty solid matchup this week. Obviously, they may get up early. They may score a shit ton of points and then just run the rock down the Redskins' throat towards the end of the game. But I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to get enough work at the beginning of the game to warrant a start. I'm going to be sitting down Case Keenum in this matchup. Now, Case Keenum did play pretty good against the Dolphins last week, but I'm a bit too worried about this 49ers defense. You don't want anything to do with a lot of these guys on the Redskins offense. I do like Mr. Scary Terry McLaurin in this game. F1 Terry McLaurin, whatever you like to call him. I think Case Keenum, though, not in for too hot of a matchup. Not going to look super hot fire this week, and it's just going to be fine to ride your bench or probably to ride the waiver wire because there's no way anyone owns them unless you're in a two-quarterback league. Next game here is the Texans at the Colts, and I'm confident starting both quarterbacks in this head-to-head matchup. I like Deshaun Watson obviously more due to the fact that I know that they're not just going to run the rock a million times. They're going to be throwing the ball. DeAndre Hopkins needs to get some fucking use. He has been irrelevant the last couple of weeks in fantasy football. And by the last couple of weeks, I mean besides week 1, he has been god-awful dog shit. Now, obviously, Deshaun Watson is going to run the ball against the Colts. He's going to throw the ball against the Colts, and he's going to be a top 10 guy this week. I'm definitely liking to start him this week. Now, Jacoby Brissett, Jacoby Brisket, as I like to call him, Jacoby B, Jacoby Moneybags. He's got a bunch of nicknames. Last week, he didn't score a bunch of touchdowns, though. And by last week, I mean the week before against the Kansas City Chiefs, he didn't do shit. They ran the ball 9,000 times against the Chiefs. Are the Texans as susceptible to get fucked by the run? Not as susceptible as the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that Jacoby Brissett might be in for a bit of more of a pass-heavy attack, a bit of an aerial attack against the Tennessee Texans, the Houston Texans this week. Sorry, guys, I am a bit fucking stupid, but Jacoby Brissett should be in for a solid game. He's a guy you could definitely stream off the waiver wire this week. You could do a lot worse than Jacoby B. Next game here is the Vikings at the Lions, and I'm going to be starting Mr. Kirk Cousins. You like that, guys. Kirk Cousins last week put on a fucking show against the Philadelphia Eagles. I think this week against the Lions, he puts up a pretty good matchup again this week, and that warrants him to be a start in my book. Now, Matthew Stafford played good last week. The Packers defense was able to stop them a lot. Obviously, he's going to be feeding Kenny Golladay 9,000 times in this game because Kenny Golladay seems to have the Odell hands or something. He's catching the ball everywhere on the field, no matter how bad Matt Stafford throws it to him. Now, the refs are likely not going to bend over Matt Stafford and fuck him in the night, just like they did on Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football, whatever that matchup was, I believe Monday night. I think Matt Stafford is in for a pretty good matchup this week against the Vikings. Obviously, the Vikings defense last week against the Eagles. Carson Wentz put up some numbers. I think Matt Stafford could put up some numbers this week against the Vikings. Next matchup here is the Jaguars at the Bengals. And I love Gardner Minshew this week. Gardner Minshew put on a terrible show last week against the New Orleans Saints. He disrespected me personally. I had him as a stream last week, and he shit the bed. He needed his huggies. This week, the only hugging that Gardner Minshew is going to do is to someone's wife, because Gardner Minshew is going to go absolutely haywire this game, absolutely sicko mode, as the kids like to call it. Gardner Minshew is going to go ham against the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals defense is atrocious. The Bengals defense will not be able to start Gardner Minshew's rushing, his throwing. DJ Chark is going to have a big bowl of fucking Wheaties in the morning and destroy the Bengals. Gardner Minshew is in for a pretty great matchup this week. I'm going to be sitting down Andy Dalton. Now, I know some people claim that the Jaguars defense is finito, over, as they like to call it, again without Jalen Ramsey. But what I think is Andy Dalton is such a sorry motherfucker that he will not even be able to play good in a possibly pretty decent matchup here. Don't want anything to do with Andy Dalton this week or in the rest of the season. Next game here is the Cardinals at the New York Football Giants. I'm going to be starting up both quarterbacks, both rookie quarterbacks in this matchup. Kyler Murray has been playing great. He's been using his legs a lot more than he did the first couple of weeks in the season. Obviously, using your legs equivalates to more fucking fantasy points because you only need to run the ball for 10 yards to get 1 point instead of throwing the ball for 25 yards to get 1 point. That's easy math there. Kyler Murray should be in for a pretty good matchup. Now, Tom Brady played pretty bad against the Giants, but obviously that's because Eli has some telekinesis bullshit where he gets all the way in Bill Belichick's head and Bill Belichick fucking chokes and does nothing against the Giants. But I think that Kyler Murray is going to be in for a pretty good game against the Giants defense that, in my opinion, isn't that good and is susceptible to the run. Now, Daniel Jones is in for a great matchup as well. The Cardinals defense has looked not the greatest. Obviously, Pat Pete is back, so that is something to worry about, but that's not really going to hinder Daniel Jones too much. Maybe he locks down Golden Tate a bit, but I'm not necessarily too worried about that. I think Daniel Jones is in for a pretty good matchup this week. I think he's going to run the ball, throw the ball, do all the things that Kyler Murray does, and maybe even better in this matchup. Next game here is the Dolphins at the Bills. A game last week that we saw the Dolphins in a suck fest against the Redskins. I think the Bills are going to absolutely dominate in this game. We're going to be starting up Josh Allen. This is a premier matchup for Josh Allen, one of the many in the next couple of weeks for Mr. Josh Allen. Josh Allen is going to hurdle the fucking Dolphins, run all over them, throw all over them, jizz all over them. They're just going to destroy the Dolphins. It's not even going to be a fun game to watch. Josh Allen's going to pick apart the defense. I like Josh Allen this week. I'm going to be sitting down Ryan Fitzmagic, as I like to call him. The Magic ran out last week. Obviously, it seemed like they called a play for Kenyon Drake not to score. They made it so that they couldn't win the game. Ryan Fitzpatrick did look a bit magical last week. This is a revenge game against the Bills, but you really are not going to be wanting to start the fucking Ryan Fitzpatrick in this game. Next game here is the Chargers at the Titans. And we're going to be starting with Phillip Rivers. Now, Phillip Rivers played shit against the Steelers last week until the very end of the game when he arose and played amazing with throwing the ball to Hunter Henry. Now, I think this week against the Titans, against a tough defense, he is lower down in my rankings, but he's definitely a guy that I'm still willing to start. You're going to be seeing down Ryan Tannehill. Now, Ryan Tannehill coming in for relief last week for Marcus Mariota, who looks terrible. Maybe Marcus Mariota is done in the NFL as a starting quarterback, but Ryan Tannehill is not the greatest quarterback. As a Dolphins fan, I just don't think Ryan Tannehill will be able to perform against the Chargers. I would not really even consider starting him in a two-quarterback league. Next game here is the Ravens at the Seattle Seahawks. And I like both quarterbacks in this matchup. I'm going to be starting Lamar Jackson in this game. Obviously, for the Ravens, his rushing upside is immense and huge. 100-plus rush yards, it seems like every single game, rushing touchdowns, passing touchdowns. He's going to play fine against the Seattle Seahawks. We saw a couple weeks ago the Rams absolutely play a huge game against the Seahawks, and I think Lamar Jackson will play great this week as well. And we're going to be starting up Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson has had a great last couple of weeks now with the emergence of Chris Carson running the ball a bit more. That obviously hurts Russell Wilson, but Russell Wilson can run the ball himself. I like Russell Wilson this week against the Ravens. Next game here is the Saints at the Chicago Bears. I'm sitting both quarterback is in this matchup. I don't like Teddy Bridgewater. Obviously, Teddy Bridgewater 2 weeks ago, 4 touchdowns. Last week played pretty good against the Jacksonville Jaguars, but I don't love him this week. The Bears defense is probably going to put a lock straight on Teddy Bridgewater, straight around his neck. He's going to have the done chain straight on him. Teddy Bridgewater is not going to be able to do anything. Chase Daniel is a sorry fucking quarterback. You don't even need to know about that. Just sit his ass. Next game here is a NFC East matchup, the Eagles at the Dallas Cowboys. A game that should be pretty good and a game that I can actually enjoy with my eyes and watch. I'm going to be starting up Carson Wentz for the Eagles. Now, he does have a big nose, but he's also going to have a big point total this week against the Cowboys. Cowboys are without Mr. Amari Cooper likely this week. I think Carson Wentz might take an Amari Pooper straight on the Cowboys defense. That was a joke from 12-year-old me. And Dak Prescott is also a start. Now, even without Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup's going to step up to the plate and put on his big boy pants and play a good game. I think Dak Prescott's in for a pretty good matchup this week. We saw Kirk Cousins eviscerate the Eagles last week. I think Dak Prescott and Jason Garrett, who's going to be clapping on the sidelines, can put up a pretty solid game plan and play a good game this week. That final game here is the Monday Night Football matchup. The Patriots at the New York Football Jets, a game not to watch. I'm going to be starting up Tom Brady in this game, but he's got the because I think they honestly just he throws a touchdown or two, and then they just run the ball a million times. Now, obviously, he's not going to run in 2 touchdowns like we saw last week. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, but I'm definitely going to be starting Tom Brady pretty much every single week. I'm going to be sitting down Sammy Mano. Sammy Mano does have a good schedule towards the end of the season, but right now he's playing up against the Jets. Against the Patriots. He's obviously on the Jets. He's been having a battle against Mono that he somehow won. But this battle against the Patriots, he will not be able to win. He will not emerge victorious like he did against Mono. He will probably fail in this game, throw a couple of picks, get his ass sacked a bunch of times. I don't like Sam Darnold in this matchup. So thank you guys all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you have a wonderful day. Make sure while you're down there clicking that subscribe button, you also check out overlaydfs.com. Huge shout out to them. I love them. I love you all. Have a great rest of your Friday afternoon. I love you all. Goodbye.